This is a report on the Batas Pambansa bilang 232, otherwise known as the Education Act of 1982. Participating in this report are Christian Von Saiao, a language skills development facilitator at Anuban Nontaburi School, Nontaburi, Thailand. Mark Joseph Tiktawa, teacher of English to students with advanced aptitudes in mathematics and the sciences, under the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration. Jessica Kalugay and Arthur Runes, both elementary teachers under the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration. The Education Act of 1982 is an act that provided for the establishment and maintenance of an integrated system of education. It was formulated to govern both formal and non-formal systems in public and private schools in all levels of the entire educational system to ensure the maximum contribution of the system to the attainment of national development goals. The goals are 1. To achieve and maintain an accelerating rate of economic development and social progress. 2. To ensure the maximum participation of all people in the attainment and enjoyment of the benefits of such growth. 3. To achieve and strengthen national unity and consciousness and preserve, develop, and promote desirable cultural, moral, and spiritual values in a changing world. This law contemplates that the rights to relevant quality education must be provided to everyone, regardless of sex, age, creed, socioeconomic status, physical and mental conditions, racial or ethnic origin, political or other affiliation. The law contemplates further that education must be provided to serve as an instrument for national development and national solidarity. And it must be given in such a way that citizens are developed within the context of their own cultures, customs, traditions, interests, and belief. Let me just highlight that one. It must be given in such a way that citizens are developed within the context of their own cultures, customs, traditions, interests, and beliefs. So implicitly, this law pays particular attention to individuality. In general, the educational system had 4 objectives. 1. To provide for a broad general education that will assist each individual. Again, there is a particular emphasis on individuality here. Education that will assist each individual in the peculiar ecology of his own society to attain his potentials as a human being, enhance the range and quality of individual and group participation in the basic functions of society, and acquire the essential educational foundation of his development into a productive and versatile citizen. Another general aim is to train the nation's manpower in the middle level skills for national development. Third, it aims to develop the profession that will provide leadership for the nation in the advancement of knowledge for improving the quality of human life. And fourth, it aims to respond effectively to the changing needs and conditions of the nation through a system of educational planning and evaluation. In addition thereto, and pursuant to the Constitution, the inherent aims of this law includes the inculcation of love of country, teaching the duties of citizenship, and developing moral character, personal discipline, and scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency. In relation to rural development, the said law also provides the educational system to reach out to educationally deprived communities in order to give them meaningful reality to their membership in the national society and to enrich their civic participation in the community and national life. The Education Act of 1982 contemplates the educational community to be composed of the following: 1. The parents. 2. The students. 3. School personnel, which will include teaching or academic staff, school administrators, academic and non-teaching personnel, and non-academic personnel. And 4th, the schools, of course. Each of these entities have their respective functions, and the government formulates policies to foster a spirit of shared purpose and cooperation among these members and elements of the educational community, and also between this community and other sectors of the society. This is so that the true goals and objectives of education can be fulfilled. In order to do so, the state performs the following: 1. Aid and support the natural right and duty of parents in the rearing of the youth through the educational system. 2. Promote and safeguard the welfare and interest of the students, defining their rights and obligations, according them privileges, and encouraging the establishment of sound relationships between them and the other members of the school community. 3. Promote the social economic status of all school personnel, uphold their rights, define their obligations, and improve their living and working conditions and career prospects. And 4. to extend support to promote the viability of those institutions through which parents, students, and school personnel seek to attain their educational goals. The educational system also provides avenues through which the members of the educational community may discuss relevant issues and communicate information and suggestions for assistance and support of the school and for the promotion of their common interests. Representatives from each subgroup of the educational community shall sit and participate in these bodies, the rules and procedures of which must be approved by them and duly published.
Hello everyone, this is Christian Von Sayao, but you can just call me Teacher Christian, and I'm currently teaching here in Tabori, Thailand. The Education Act of 1982 clearly stipulates the rights of each members of the educational community in addition to all the rights they are entitled to as provided in other existing laws. All parents who have children enrolled in a school have the rights: 1. To organize by themselves and or with the teachers for the purpose of providing a forum for the discussion of matters relating to the total school program and for ensuring the full cooperation of parents and teachers in the formulation and efficient implementation of such programs, and 2. To access to any official record directly relating to the children who are under their parental responsibility. Students and pupils in all schools shall enjoy the following rights: 1. The right to receive, primarily through competent instruction, relevant quality education in line with national goals and conducive to their full development as persons with human dignity. 2. The right to freely choose their field of study, subject to existing curricula, and to continue their course therein up to graduation, except in cases of academic deficiency or violation of disciplinary regulations. 3. The rights to school guidance and counseling services for decisions and selecting the alternatives in fields of work suited to his potentialities. 4. The right of access to his own school records, the confidentiality of which the school shall maintain and preserve. 5. The right to the issuance of official certificates, diplomas, transcript of records, grades, transfer credentials, and other similar documents within 30 days from request. 6. The right to publish a student newspaper and similar publication, as well as the right to invite resource persons during assemblies, symposia, and other activities of similar nature. 7. The right to free expression of opinions and suggestions, and to effective channels of communications with appropriate academic channels and administrative bodies of the school or institution. And 8. The right to form, establish, join, and participate in organizations and societies recognized by the school to foster their intellectual, cultural, spiritual, and physical growth and development, or to form, establish, join, and maintain organizations and societies for purposes not contrary to the law. And 9. The right to be free from involuntary contributions except those approved by their own organizations or societies. The following rights shall be enjoyed by all school personnel: 1. The right to free expression of opinion and suggestions and to effective channels of communications with appropriate academic and administrative bodies of the school or institution. 2. The right to be provided with free legal service by the appropriate government office in the case of public school personnel and through the school authorities concerned in the case of private school personnel when charged in an administrative, civil, and/or criminal proceedings by parties other than the school or regulatory authorities concerned for actions committed directly in the lawful discharge of professional duties and or in defense of school policies. 3. The right to establish, join, and maintain labor organizations and or professional and self-regulating organizations of their choice to promote their welfare and defend their interests. Number 4. The right to be free from involuntary contributions except those imposed by their own organizations. In addition to the rights mentioned in the preceding section, every member of the teaching or academic staff shall enjoy the following rights and or privileges. 1. The right to be free from compulsory assignments not related to their duties as defined in their appointments or employment contracts, unless compensated therefor, conformably to existing law. 2. The right to intellectual property consistent with applicable laws. 3. Teachers shall be deemed persons in authority when in the discharge of lawful duties and the responsibilities and shall therefore be accorded due respect and protection. Number 4. Teachers shall be accorded the opportunity to choose alternative career lines either in school administration, in classroom teaching, or others for purposes of career advancement. In accordance with existing laws, regulations, and policies of the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports, school administrators shall have sufficient administrative discretion necessary for the efficient and effective performance of their functions. They shall be deemed persons in authority while in discharge of lawful duties and responsibilities and shall therefore be accorded due respect and protection. Schools shall enjoy the following: the right of their governing boards or lawful authorities to provide for the proper governance of the school and to adopt and enforce administrative or management system. 2. The right for institutions of higher learning to determine or academic grounds who shall be admitted to study, who may teach, and what shall be subjects of the study and research.
Along with the rights, the Education Act of 1982 also stipulates the duties and obligations of each member of the educational community. Parents shall have the following duties and obligations. Number 1. Parents, individually or collectively, through the school systems, shall help carry out the educational objectives in accordance with national goals. Number 2. Parents shall be obliged to enable their children to obtain elementary education and shall strive to enable them to obtain secondary and higher education in the pursuance of the right formation of the youth. Number 3. Parents shall cooperate with the school in the implementation of the school program curricular and co-curricular. Every student shall, number 1, exert his utmost to develop his potentialities for service, particularly by undergoing an education suited to his abilities, in order that he may become an asset to his family and to society. Number 2, uphold the academic integrity of the school, endeavor to achieve academic excellence, and abide by the rules and regulations governing his academic responsibilities and moral integrity. Number 3. Promote and maintain the peace and tranquility of the school by observing the rules and discipline, and by exerting efforts to attain harmonious relationships with fellow students, the teaching and academic staff, and other school personnel. Number 4. Participate actively in civic affairs and in the promotion of the general welfare, particularly in the social, economic, and cultural development of his community, and in the attainment of a just, compassionate, and orderly society. Number 5. Exercise his rights responsibly in the knowledge that he is answerable for any infringement or violation of the public welfare and of the rights of others. Every teacher shall 1. Perform his duties to the school by discharging his responsibilities in accordance with the philosophy, goals, and objectives of the school. Number 2. Be accountable for the efficient and effective attainment of specified learning objectives in pursuance of national development goals within the limits of available school resources. Number 3. Render regular reports on performance of each student and to the latter and the latter's parents and guardians with specific suggestions for improvement. Number 4. Assume the responsibility to maintain and sustain his professional growth and advancement and maintain professionalism in his behavior at all times. Number 5. Refrain from making deductions in students' scholastic rating for acts that are clearly not manifestations of poor scholarship. Number 6. Participate as an agent of constructive social, economic, moral, intellectual, cultural, and political change in his school and the community within the context of national policies. Every school administrator shall, number 1, perform his duties to the school by discharging his responsibilities in accordance with the philosophy, goals, and objectives of the school. Number 2, be accountable for the efficient and effective administration and management of the school. Number 3, develop and maintain a healthy school atmosphere conducive to the promotion and preservation of academic freedom and effective teaching and learning, and to harmonious and progressive school personnel relationship. Number 4. Assume and maintain professional behavior in his work and in dealing with students, teachers, academic non-teaching personnel, administrative staff, and parents or guardians. Number 5. Render adequate reports to teachers, academic non-teaching personnel, and non-academic staff on their actual performance in relation to their expected performance and counsel them on ways of improving the same. Number 6. Observe due process, fairness, promptness, privacy, constructiveness, and consistency in disciplining his teachers and other personnel. Number 7. Maintain adequate records and submit required reports to the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. Academic non-teaching personnel shall, number 1, improve himself professionally, be keeping abreast of the latest trends and techniques in his profession. 2. Assume, promote, and maintain an atmosphere conducive to service and learning. Number 3. Promote and maintain an atmosphere conducive to service and learning.
The Education Act of 1982 contemplates the following educational systems. Formal education, which refers to the hierarchical structured and chronologically graded learning organized and provided by the formal school system, and for which certification is required in order for the learner to progress through the grades or move to higher levels. Formal education shall correspond to the following levels. 1. Elementary education. The first stage of compulsory formal education, primarily concerned with providing a basic education and usually corresponding to 6 or 7 grades, including preschool programs. 2. Secondary education, The state of formal education following the elementary level concerned primarily with continuing basic education and expanding it to include the learning of employable gainful skills, usually corresponding to 4 years of high school. 3. Tertiary education. Post-secondary schooling is higher education leading to a degree in a specific profession or discipline. The objectives of elementary education are: 1. To provide the knowledge and develop the skills, attitudes, and values essential to personal development and necessary for living in and contributing to a developing and changing social milieu. 2. To provide learning experiences which increase the child's awareness of and responsiveness to the changes in and just demands of society, and to prepare him for constructive and effective involvement. 3. To promote and intensify the child's knowledge of, identification with, and love for the nation and the people to which he belongs. And 4. To promote work experiences which develop the child's orientation to the world of work and creativity and prepare himself to engage in honest and gainful work. The objectives of secondary education are: 1. To continue to promote the objectives of elementary education, and 2. To discover and enhance the different aptitudes and interests of the students so as to equip him with skills of productive endeavor and/or prepare him for tertiary schooling. The objectives of tertiary education are: 1. To provide a general education program that will promote national identity, cultural consciousness, moral integrity, and spiritual vigor. 2. To train the nation's manpower in the skills required for national development. 3. To develop the professions that will provide leadership for the nation. And 4. To advance knowledge through research work and apply new knowledge for improving the quality of human life and responding effectively to changing societal needs and conditions. In addition to formal education, services to meet special needs of certain clientele are also established. One of this is work education or practical arts, which is a program of basic education which aims to develop the right attitudes towards work, and technical vocational education, post-secondary but non-degree programs leading to 1, 2, or 3-year certificates in preparation for a group of middle-level occupations. Another is special education, which refers to the education of persons who are physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, or culturally different from the so-called normal individuals, that they require modification of school practices, services, to develop them to their maximum capacity. And lastly, non-formal education, which is any organized school-based educational activities undertaken by the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports, and other agencies aimed at attaining specific learning objectives for a particular clientele, especially the illiterates and the out-of-school youth and adults, distinct from and outside the regular offerings of the formal school system. The objectives of non-formal education are as follows: A. To eradicate illiteracy and raise the level of functional literacy of the population. B. To promote unemployed and underemployed youth and adults with appropriate vocational or technical skills to enable them to become more productive and effective citizens. And letter C. To develop among the clientele of non-formal education proper values and attitudes necessary for personal, community, and national development. This law also provides that all schools shall be established in accordance with law. The establishment of new national schools and the conversion of existing schools from elementary to national secondary or tertiary schools shall be by law. Any private school proposed to be established must incorporate as a non-stock educational corporation in accordance with the provisions of the Corporation Code of the Philippines. Government assistance to such schools for educational programs shall be used exclusively for that purpose. The educational operations of schools shall be subject to their prior authorization of the government and shall be affected by recognition. In the case of government-operated schools, whether local, regional, or national, recognition of educational programs and/or operations shall be deemed granted simultaneously with establishment. In all other cases, the rules and regulations governing recognition shall be prescribed and enforced by the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports, defining therein who are qualified to apply, providing for a permit system, stating the conditions for the grant of recognition and for its cancellation and withdrawal, and providing for related matters. The issuance of a certificate of recognition to a school shall have the following effects. 1. It transforms the temporary permit to a permanent authority to operate. 2. It entitles the school or college to give the students who have completed the course for which recognition is granted a certificate, title, or diploma. And 3. It shall entitle the students who have graduated from the said recognized course or courses to all the benefits and privileges enjoyed by graduates in similar courses of studies in all schools recognized by the government. Operation of schools and educational programs without authorization and/or operation thereof in violation of the terms of recognition are hereby declared punishable violations subject to the penalties provided in this Act. The Ministry shall encourage programs of voluntary accreditation for institutions which desire to meet standards of quality over and above minimum required for state recognition.
Each school shall establish such internal organization as will best enable it to carry out its academic and administrative functions subject to limitations provided by law. Each school establish such arrangements for the peaceful settlement of disputes between or among the members of the educational community. Every government college or university as a tertiary institution and every private school shall have a governing board pursuant to each charter or the Corporation Code of the Philippines, as the case may be. The terms and conditions of employment of personnel in government schools shall be governed by the civil service, budgetary, and compensation law and rules. In private schools, dispute arising from employee relations shall fall under the jurisdiction of the Minister of Labor and Employment as provided by the law regulations, provided that in view of the special employment status of the teaching and academic non-teaching personnel and their special roles in the advancement knowledge, standard sets are promulgated jointly by the Minister of Education, Culture and Sports, and by the Minister of Labor and Employment shall be applied by the Minister of Labor and Employment, provided further that every private school shall establish and implement an appropriate system within the school for the prompt and orderly settlement of provisions of Articles 262 and 263 of the Labor Code. In terms of funding of republic state-owned schools shall come from the following. 1. National funds. Public schools shall continue to be funded from national funds, provided that local governments shall be encouraged to assume operation of local public schools on the basis of national fund participation and adequate revenue sources which may be assigned by the national government for the purpose. 2. Financial aid assistance to public secondary schools. The national government shall extend financial aid and assistance to public secondary schools established and maintained by local governments, including barangay high schools. 3. Share of local government. Provinces, cities, and municipalities and barangays shall appropriate funds in their annual budget for the operation and maintenance of public secondary schools on the basis of national fund participation. 4. Special Education Fund. The proceeds of the Special Education Fund accruing to local government shall be used exclusively for the purposes enumerated in Section 1 of the Republic Act No. 5447 and in accordance with rules and regulations issued by the Minister of Education, Culture and Sports and the Ministry of Budget. Said proceeds shall be considered a local fund and shall be subject to Presidential Decrees number 477, Presidential Decree 1375, and other applicable local budget laws and regulations. 5. Tuition and other school fees. Secondary and post-secondary schools may charge tuition and other school fees in order to improve facilities or to accommodate more students. 6. Income from other sources. Government supported education institutions may receive grants, legacies, donations, and gifts for the purposes allowed by existing laws. Funding of private schools shall come from the following. Number 1. Government assistance. The government, in recognition of their complementary role in the educational system, may provide aid to the programs of private schools in the form of grants or scholarships or loans from government financial institutions, provided that such programs meet certain defined educational requirements and standards and contribute to the attainment of national development goals. 2. Tuition and other fees. Each private school shall determine its rate of tuition and other school fees or charges. The rates and charges adopted by the school pursuant to this provision shall be collectible, and their application or use authorized, subject to rules and regulations promulgated by the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. 3. Income from other sources. Any private school duly recognized by the government may receive any grant and legacy donation, gifts, bequest, or device from any individual, institution, corporation, foundation, trust or philanthropic organization or research institution or organization as may be authorized by law. Furthermore, private schools are authorized to engage in any auxiliary enterprise to generate income primarily to finance their educational operations and or to reduce the need to increase students' fees. It is the policy of the state in the pursuit of its national education development goals to provide an incentive program to encourage the participation of the community in the development of the educational sector.
In terms of finances, the Education Act of 1982 also provided that the government provide financial assistance to the financially disadvantaged and deserving students. Such assistance may be given in the form of state scholarships, grant-in-aid, assistance from the Educational Loan Fund, or subsidized tuition rates in state colleges and universities. All of the above and similar assistance programs shall provide for reserved quotas for financially deprived but academically qualified students from the national cultural communities. Educational institutions shall be encouraged to grant scholarships to students pursuant to the provisions of existing laws, and such scholarship measures as may hereafter be provided for by law. The private sector, especially educational institutions, business, and industry, shall be encouraged to grant financial assistance to students, especially those undertaking research in the fields of science and technology, or in such projects as may be necessary within the context of national development. The administration of the educational system and, pursuant to the provisions of the Constitution, the supervision and regulation of educational institutions are hereby vested in the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports, now known as the Department of Education, and the Center for Sports and Cultural Development, respectively, without prejudice to the provisions of the charter of any state college and university. The Ministry of Education, now known as the Department of Education, is headed by the Secretary of Education. The organizational structure is presented in this video. It is clear, therefore, that even during its conception, the Philippine educational system has been conceived as a vehicle for national development and for national patrimony. Given its overwhelming importance, it was necessary to ensure that education is provided to everyone, even and especially to those in the rural communities, whose participation in advancing the quality of life in the rural areas is an integral factor in the government's aim that all its citizens be able to share the burden of national progress and that all its citizens be able to enjoy the fruits of such progress.